You ever look back at your teenage years and just cringe? I mean, the awkwardness, the super intense emotions, those questionable choices? Well, in this explainer, we are going to dive into the science that explains why you felt so weird and why it was all completely, totally null. So, have you actually ever had that thought? Like, what was wrong with me back then? If you have, I promise you are in very good company. It turns out that feeling of being a walking, talking mess wasn't a sign that you were broken. It was actually a sign that something pretty incredible was under construction. All right, let's get into it. The absolute best way to think about your teen years is like a massive pre-programmed biological hardware upgrade. Your whole body was transforming from a kid's version into an adult's, and that whole process is driven by one seriously powerful internal engine. And that engine? It's called puberty. It's basically a flood of hormones that kicks off this huge cascade of changes. It's the biological trigger for literally everything, from you suddenly shooting up in height to feeling emotions you'd never even heard of before. But here's what's really wild. This whole process is starting way, way earlier than it used to. This is a thing scientists call the secular trend. Just look at these numbers. Back in the 1850s, the average girl started menstruating around 17 years old. Today, it's closer to 12 and a half. That is a massive shift. And it's mostly because of better nutrition and healthcare, which basically sends a signal to our bodies saying, okay, we're ready for this upgrade sooner than we thought. Now, part of that upgrade is the legendary adolescent growth spurt. This is that crazy period of ridiculously fast growth. It usually hits girls first, somewhere between 10 and 12. And yeah, that explains that brief, glorious time in middle school when the girls are towering over all the boys. Don't worry, the boys catch up, and then some, starting their spurt a little later, around 12 to 14. Okay, and do you remember that phase where you suddenly couldn't walk through a doorway without bumping into the frame? That wasn't just you being clumsy. It's a real thing called asynchronous growth. See, your body doesn't grow all at once proportionally. Your hands and feet shoot out first, then your arms and legs, and your torso is the last thing to catch up. So for a while, you are literally, physically out of proportion with yourself. No wonder you felt awkward. And here's something else that's kind of wild. While the timing of all this is different for everybody, the sequence of events is incredibly predictable. It's like a pre-programmed biological checklist that your body just runs through in a very specific, unchangeable order for both girls and boys. So your body is going through this massive reconstruction project. But honestly, that's only half the story. The real key to understanding your teenage self, the answer to that big question, what was wrong with me, it's not in your body. It lies upstairs, in your brain. Because while your body was getting a hardware upgrade, your brain was getting a complete software overhaul. Okay, so the first key player in this brain overhaul is the limbic system. Just think of this as the raw engine for your emotions, your impulses, and your reward-seeking behavior. During your teen years, this system gets totally supercharged. It's what makes you so sensitive to that dopamine rush from social rewards, from fitting in with your friends, and yeah, from taking exciting risks. And now let's meet the second player, the prefrontal cortex, or PFC. Now, if the limbic system is the powerful engine, the PFC is the brain's CEO. It's the calm, rational driver. This is the part in charge of impulse control, planning ahead, and thinking about long-term consequences. It's the little voice in your head that says, hey, maybe let's think about this for a second. And right here, this is it. This is the absolute key to understanding the teenage brain. There is a huge developmental mismatch between these two systems. Your emotional, reward-seeking limbic system is firing on all cylinders. It's fully mature and ready to party. But your rational, impulse-controlling prefrontal cortex, that thing is still a construction zone. It won't be fully operational until you're in your mid-20s. This whole situation leads to what neuroscientists have brilliantly described as having all gas and no brakes. It's kind of like you're behind the wheel of a brand new Ferrari, but you just got your learner's permit. You've got this incredibly powerful, revved-up emotional engine, but your control system, your brakes, are still just learning how to handle the curves. Okay, so we've got the hardware upgrade happening in the body and the crazy software overhaul happening in the brain. Now, let's put these two giant pieces of the puzzle together and finally make sense of those feelings you remember so well. This is that moment where it all just clicks into place. Remember feeling so clumsy all the time? Yep, that was asynchronous growth. Your body was literally out of proportion.
Those intense emotional storms and wild mood swings. You can thank your supercharged limbic system for that. Those, questionable decisions you made. That was your underdeveloped prefrontal cortex not hitting the brakes in time. And that overwhelming need to fit in, that was just your brain being extra sensitive to the reward of social approval.
So let's go all the way back to that question we started with. What was wrong with me? The answer, now that we know all this, is absolutely nothing. You weren't broken, you weren't crazy, you weren't a mess, you were a work in progress, and you were going through one of the most incredible and important transformations of your entire life. You know, understanding all this science isn't just about looking back and being a little kinder to your younger self. It's also about looking at the teenagers in our lives right now with a lot more empathy. So knowing this, how does it change the way you see things? Thanks for joining us for this explainer.